obviously we have a lot of personal. Turn that on. We have a lot of personal beliefs. I wanted to really look at this more objectively than my own personal belief lens, which I certainly have strong views. We have supporting documentation from the representative of Dick and Jane's Super Spot. I will acknowledge the name change on that. And also from the Karate for Kids, as well as our city attorney's office. Reading through that, thinking a lot through this about rights and protecting children and all of that, I'm going to tell you where I stand and why. That's okay. I will be supporting Karate for Kids tonight. Here's why. Please. The ordinance says a sexually oriented business should not be permitted to operate within 1,000 feet. And we have this list. We've talked about this list of schools. And it starts out like this: a public or private educational facility, including but not limited to. And then it goes on to list child daycare, all that stuff. Schools, you name it. But that whole including but not limited to, and the fact that it can be private, and the fact that do I think the Karate for Kids is teaching children? I do. And the fact that this list is not meant to be exhaustive. If it was meant to be exhaustive, it would not include the words including but not limited to. It would just said a public or an educational facility such as childcare or whatever. But it clearly was not exhaustive. So I think that was number one. Two, why was this ordinance put in place in the first place? Why? The intention of this, to me, is for kids. It would seem like it's for kids. Then I say, well, is Karate for Kids for kids? Which somebody stole my line, I guess. But that was another part of it. So I'm looking at this ordinance, a public or private educational facility, including but not limited to, and so on, and the intention of this. I do want to say our city attorney is trying to go clearly as best they can by the law, and if they don't read into the intention and all that, like we will up here. But I think the spirit of the law in this is upheld. I do believe, by the way, and I should put this for the record, if Karate for Kids was not in this location, if Dick and Jane's Super Spot was to apply there, I would grant it there. Not because I prefer it or anything, but because of their rights as well. So, but because Karate for Kids is under 600 plus feet away, I can't in good conscience approve that. So, with that, that's where I stand, and I will move forward. Thank you.
Steve Laurenti.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to, and I'm not going to take a long time on this because I had a lot of things I was going to ask the city attorney's office on, but I honestly want to preserve that. But my opinion on the matter and looking at the ordinance, because I think that is a difference for the city of Rapid City. We have an ordinance that regulates this. It doesn't ban it because the Supreme Court has ruled clearly that we cannot ban them. And until we have a Supreme Court that allows such a thing, we're going to have to make sure that we have a ordinance, which we have. So this city has, that's what's different about this situation, is this city has taken the step. Maybe this will be a case where we will strengthen it, but ultimately, based on what the Supreme Court tells us, is that we cannot ban them. But in this particular case, I believe we are regulating it. Karate for Kids has been there for a very long time. I think this is a defensible zoning issue. I just want to let all of the citizens know that I agree with them. I agree wholeheartedly with all of the comments that were made. But I want to encourage all of you to make sure that you make this a very important issue when you elect the people that you elect. Because ultimately, we win in the courts. There's going to be a lawsuit here, and I think that was said. And I want to encourage my colleagues on the council to understand that either way, there will be a lawsuit here. So I want to be on the side that says this is not good for society. I mean, I agree with that people can choose to do certain things in their lives that are very detrimental and destructive. We all have family members and friends that have made bad decisions. We know we have all had that experience. But there is a standard, I think, for society. Whether people choose, people always make the wrong decision. That's what, in my opinion, my Creator gave me the ability to choose between right and wrong. It would be very easy if He didn't, and that'd be great. So the reality is, there are always going to be people who will choose the wrong path, and that has started from the very beginning of time, starting with that apple, right? So, but that doesn't mean that we can't regulate. That doesn't mean that we can't make sure that our community reflects the moral fortitude of all of the people. Let's just say the majority of the people in this city. And that's what this adult-oriented ordinance was about. So I'm going to stand with the side, in my opinion, that is right. And I'm hoping that we will win, but I want you all to know that we have to do better at getting people into office who will make these laws tougher. The way to get rid of these is to make sure that we have the right people in office that are appointing the right judges in the right places, that make the right decisions, that reflect our moral values, and that goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. So I just wanted to say that that's a big picture thing, but it's important that we do that at all levels of government. I yield.
Becky Drury.
Thank you for being here tonight. It is so nice to see a full house on a subject that's near and dear to your hearts, or you would not be here at 20 after 10 on a Monday night. It's encouraging for me to see you here and to have your support. I agree with what the bishop said earlier, that children are a very precious resource. I have 4 grandchildren, and although they don't go to karate for kids, they've gone to prima ballerina, they're going to just gymnastics. And I don't want to pull into the parking lot and have to explain an adult-oriented business to them either. Because sometimes I'm the one that gets to take them to those special places where they get to have that instruction. And I also believed when I read the ordinance, the intent of that ordinance, just like Mr. Biggs said, was not that it had to fall under educational. The intent was to keep the adult-oriented businesses away from our children and from my grandchildren. And that's important to me. I yield.
Lauren Armstrong.
Thank you all for being here. I want to preface this by saying that I have 2 16-year-old girls. They're actually blue belts in jiu-jitsu. So my heart goes out to you. I understand and I'm sympathetic to this quandary. But on the other hand, I look at this business and this gentleman's right to own his business. And while I don't agree with it, this is very personal to me because it's in my ward. I don't think it is up to government to impose our morals to our constituents. I think that starts at the family, friends, your church, your community. I even shared this situation with my 16-year-old girls, which was a very awkward conversation. They blushed, they rolled their eyes, "Oh, Mom." They said, "Really, do you think kids are really going to be paying attention to these signs?" I said, "Well, as a parent, you have to see where I'm looking at this. Most kids are looking down at their phones or on their tablets. I really don't think that they're going to be looking at the signage. The fact that this gentleman says that he's willing to change the name, that the city can do something to approve the signage, I just wish that we could just get back to basics and just be neighborly and say, what can we do to resolve this problem, instead of this being our problem on city council. I guess my main question is, how does Karate for Kids register? When they put in their business paperwork, do they say that they're a school, or do their articles of incorporation say that they're a business?
Well, I know this issue was touched on over the weekend, and then I think Mr. Sabers filed a response today. No, they don't identify as a school, but as Mr. Sabers said, generally when you file the corporate papers, I mean, you don't necessarily, you say any legal purpose or something, so you're not tied into it. So I don't know how much weight you can put into that, but I guess, when we're talking about the educational, and I don't disagree that certainly there was a consideration about trying to separate this business from kids when the ordinance was adopted. But one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that we can't ban it completely. And that goes for these businesses are banned, or once the court said, well, you can't ban them outright, then what communities did is they wrote the regulations so stringent that there was basically no place in town that these businesses could legally locate. I've seen the map. There's not a lot of locations in Rapid City based on the current criteria that would be legal. So if you now add in a definition of educational facility that basically is someplace that children are frequented or they can demonstrate some sort of curriculum, and I'm not disputing that they have an educational curriculum they teach, but whether this was meant to be, now I have no idea what that does to our map, but if it completely eliminates it, it creates a whole nother problem for us when the lawsuit is filed. And I think based on history, it's been set up here, everyone seems to acknowledge it, there will be a lawsuit filed. So I will also point out, I don't know how many of you have been on the council, one of the issues where this is very similar sometimes to when we have a new video lottery casino. We've been challenged several times on that, denying those based really on neighborhood objecting to the business being located there, and we've lost several of those because basically there was no evidence to support it other than the neighbors saying we don't want this. And the courts have made clear you can't deny somebody a lawful use of the property. Now we have a little more here because we have the adult business ordinance. However, because this involves, I think you just need to be aware of this before you make your decision. But ultimately, it's up to you. I'm just here to advise you, and so you can understand what the potential consequences are. But in addition to any monetary damages, because this is a civil rights case under the First Amendment, if ultimately Dick and Jane's Naughty Spot was successful, not only would we be responsible potentially for any economic damages, but also for their attorney fees under that. And frankly, I've read Judge Biken's opinion in the federal district court here, and I don't think it's pretty clear we don't feel like we have a good chance of success there, which ultimately means that if you don't want to accept that decision, you appeal to the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, which maybe we would have better, but each level you go up, the costs go up too. So at this point, it's all speculative. We don't know how much, if anything, it's going to cost. So it's just all things you have to keep in mind.
Right. Thank you for clarifying the legality part of it. And then I think the public safety issue also needs to be addressed as well. Again, as a parent, I would be concerned for my kids, but I really can't see somebody accosting students or parents that are going to a dojo. I mean, these are black belts that we're dealing with, right? But the parents are with, please, and I'm not taking sides on this. I'm trying to explain to you, how I'm looking at this. If there's a way that we can find a compromise. Do you just drop the kids off? I mean, when I brought my kids to their dojo, I sat and watched with them, and it was downtown, and we have our downtown issues. I didn't do it for public safety. I just did it because I was interested in my children. But I just can't see them going into a dojo thinking that, I would think that I would get accosted by 3 black belts. My job is to speak for my ward. This is in my ward, And my ward has said that they do not want this business here. I just want you to see the legalities of it. My vote won't be based on fear. I'm just trying to make an educated decision. I yield.
Richie Nordstrom. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Tillingham, thank you for coming forward. I appreciate your position and support of the First Amendment. But I'm not brazen enough to tell the First Amendment or the people in the news media what to print in the newspaper. I don't have that luxury, I don't believe. What I'm trying to say is that your position is, the way it's spelled out by Judge Viken and the way I'm reading it, is that we cannot ban your business or the business that you represent as a client. However, my position is we'll be coming down with supporting the school on this side of it, because Mr. Sabers has put together a very valid argument for me to support. I understand it's probably going to wind up in the court system anyway, so it'll be winding up with that decision what we'll have to comply with as that comes down. The other point that I would like to address to the people that do not support this AOB in this area, you've got to do some more work on your legislators. You've also got to do some more work with your congressional representatives to get them to change how this reads within the First Amendment. It's not going to be easy, but you've got a lot of work ahead of you to do that. I'm going to support you in this case as much as I can, but I feel no matter which way I'm going to be voting on this, the city's still going to wind up with a lawsuit. The only condition that I see in this, and I'm not banning the business, I'm only saying that this is not the appropriate location. This is not the appropriate location. If they can find another location, and I know our city staff has looked at other locations and other suites in the different strip malls and what's available out there in the community, it can be found. It can be found, even if they have to construct a whole new facility. So, right now I'm supporting the school. I believe in what you're doing, but you've got a lot of work ahead of you to convince all of your elected representatives to get on board with you. Thank you.
Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to uphold the appeal of the Planning Commission's decision. If I can get a second, I'll explain.
Second by Earl Drew.
Thank you. So there's been a lot of discussion and a lot of discussion from the audience as well as the city council members up here. I've been listening very intently, and I am trying to go with our ordinances and what they're described, and it really comes down to definitions. And much as what has been said by the audience members as well as the city council members up here, Karate for Kids, the name itself implies that this is an institution that strives to have a clientele of kids. So whether it is a school or a high school or a middle school, I do believe in my definition that this facility is for kids, and the separation of our adult-oriented ordinance is the separation to make sure that we're not banning them. There are other properties. They just need to meet the criteria of being 1,000 feet away from any community building that is primarily functional for kids. So that's my motion.
John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a few people that don't understand the motion.
It's upholding the appeal. In other words,
Motion is to uphold the appeal, which would deny
the business you go in there. Absolutely. Thank you very much. I know a lot of people in this room, and I'm going to make a lot of people upset right now because I'm going to vote against that. And the reason being is, don't look at me like that. I've got friends that are looking at me like I'm crazy. The reason that I've been on this council long enough. I've been on this council for 6 years. And I know the only way that I could vote to make most of you happy would be the other way. My job really isn't to make you happy. My job is to uphold the city ordinances and the city laws. I really think that this is going to go to court. I think we're going to get sued, and I think we're going to lose. And I really don't want to be throwing away the taxpayers' money. I've seen enough of these. You know, one of the speakers came up earlier and said that it's either for greed or fear. Well, I don't think that there's enough money to be made that it's greed. I don't think the city needs the few $1,000s that this business is going to bring into the city coffers every year. And definitely for me, it's not fear, because I'm not afraid of this crowd. I have to do what I believe is right and the way that I read the ordinance, not what I think is morally right. There's a complete difference between that. If I was doing this just for what is morally right, I'd be voting the other way. I've been on this council, like I said, long enough. I have voted for what was morally right. I voted on 2 casinos that we lost in court. We lost in court. I did what was the morally right thing, but it wasn't the legally right thing. So I hope and I pray that I am wrong here. I pray that the courts will see it a different way than I do, but I don't think so. And I think I have to do what's right for the majority of Rapid City, and that is spending your money wisely. In the long run, if we lose a lawsuit, we are just throwing that money down the toilet. Absolutely, it's your money, and it's my money too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of questions for David Eliasson, if I could, please. So why this location?
You know, after an exhaustive search lasting for years, cruising properties all the way from the end of the runways at the regional airport to the flyover zones in Box Elder, the Air Force Base, to industrial parks, gravel pits, cement plants, and other destinations, the coordination with the planning office and the city attorney's office, the GIS folks and the maps that provided by the city attorney and the other folks. These were a list of places that became available. They said that the avenue was the ideal location that they would prefer to see us. Ironically, and none of you will be happy about this either, Rushmore Plaza meets all of the setbacks. Out of respect to people from the Planning Commission's comments and knowing what their comments would be before I got there, I chose not to pursue a Rushmore Crossing type destination because everybody's going to be upset that it's on your premier retailing plaza and trying to jam in everybody's face. So we tried to find a destination that was far enough off the beaten path that people would be, generally becomes a destination. You have to be wanting to go to this location to come and do business with us. Not just saying that people do come from Rapid City to come to churches. Absolutely, whoever made that comment is correct.
Okay, thank you for that answer. So you realized when you chose this location that you were near a children's facility, and that certainly you'd get a lot of pushback, and still you decided to go for this location. Why? I mean, I just got to know why.
Well, first and foremost, I did not see the karate for kids around the corner on me until it was pointed out to me in the last few weeks. It became apparent that the planning commission meeting that was there was the first time I was aware of it. I went to the 1141 building. It's not in the 1141 building that abuts Deadwood Avenue. I never went around that corner to see if there was a children's facility. I can tell you, for instance, I know you went behind the old Rapid Chevrolet building down about 2 blocks with a big church way down the street. That a half block up on the right-hand side, there's a dance studio. I can tell you just about every storefront that's been converted to a church, retail space that's been converted to a church, any place that's been converted to any type of dance studio, ballet studio, whatever.
Okay, I get it. So you are willing to go to court over your location, is that correct?
Absolutely. We've done it before, and I've been to federal court multiple times, and I've never lost.
Oh. Well, you put us in a really, really awkward situation here.
And, to offer, a couple of the points that some of the folks making, make very valid points. I don't disagree with any of you. I'm a father, I have a grandchild, I have family, I go to church. I do. And you can pray and believe in God and have faith and love one another without conditions. That's a sermon for another day. The one thing that we'd be willing to consign, it seems like a lot of people, I think there was a representative here, but not in her official capacity from the sheriff's department, there's a couple of people talking about the task force. Several people addressed the addiction to pornography, those types of things. We would be willing to stipulate as part of the conditional use permit that we would not sell pornography at adult magazines.
Would you be willing to consider another location?
If the city wanted to provide me with a location that was approved in advance, I would look at it.
Interesting answer. Thank you very much.
Okay, folks, there's a motion on the floor, and that is to uphold the appeal, which means it would deny the conditional use permit. Does everyone understand the motion? So an aye vote will uphold the appeal, and a nay vote will deny the appeal. So let's go do a roll call vote, please. Okay, hold on. An aye vote will uphold the appeal of the planning commission's decision, which will mean the business can't go there. Cannot.
Can we just simplify the motion? An aye vote denies the conditional use permit. A no vote would, I guess at this point, reject the appeal, and then you could, assuming you had enough votes to reject the appeal, which it does not seem like is going to happen, then you could have another vote. But I think this will get it done. But just to be clear, a aye vote on this denies the conditional use permit.
Everyone clear on that? Everyone clear? Okay. Let's go to roll call, please.
Lewis, Armstrong, Laurenti,
Aye.
Drury, Roberts, Scott, Drew, Nordstrom, Modrick, Solomon. Motion passes to deny.